Right at the start of our story, we're introduced to this legendary thief named Henri Papillon. Now, Papillon isn't out here pulling heists for himself. He's actually working for a boss who is, honestly, a total nightmare. This guy is beyond cruel. I mean, if you even think about double-crossing him, you're basically signing your own death warrant. He doesn't play around. We even see the boss absolutely losing it, brutally beating one of Papillon's own friends just to send a message. See, Papillon had just finished snatching some high-end diamonds from a rich guy's mansion during a massive party. The boss looks him dead in the eye and says, "I trust you, Papillon. I know you won't betray me. But if you ever do, well, I'm gonna do the exact same thing to you." It's a heavy, terrifying moment. Papillon looks over at his friend, who's lying there barely even conscious, and just hands over the bag of diamonds like it's no big deal. He actually has the nerve to crack a joke, saying, "Hey, don't worry, I made sure to keep all the big ones for myself." The boss actually falls for it and laughs it off, and Papillon makes his exit. But here's the crazy part. As he meets up with his girlfriend on the way out, it turns out that joke wasn't a joke at all. The man actually did pocket the largest stones. Talk about living on the edge. He hands them over to her, telling her these rocks are worth more than what everyone in the entire village could own in a whole year. They are feeling on top of the world, heading home all happy and carefree, but they have absolutely no clue that someone is lurking in the shadows, watching their every move. In reality, it was a spy. In reality, it was a total setup. The boss had sent a spy to shadow Papillon and see if he was actually dumb enough to double-cross him. But, completely clueless about the target on his back, Papillon sleeps like a baby that night. The next morning, he wakes up feeling like $1,000,000, literally planning out his whole future with his girlfriend, when suddenly, bam, there's a loud, aggressive knock at the door. The police are standing there, and they are not there for the diamonds. They are arresting Papillon for murder. Papillon is standing there completely blindsided, like, "Wait, what? Murder." He has absolutely no clue what's going on. Fast forward to the next scene, and we see Papillon sitting behind bars. The trial is already over, and the judge hasn't shown a bit of mercy. Papillon has been hit with a life sentence in prison. His girlfriend is devastated, promising him through the glass that she'll hire the absolute best lawyer in the country to get him out. But Papillon just shakes his head and tells her, "Look, it's no use. I know exactly what happened. My boss framed me. He pinned the murder of that poor guy they beat in front of me on my head. Now, I've got to figure out how to get out of this hellhole on my own." While he's processing all this, a guy named Juliet in a nearby cell leans over and gives him some unsolicited advice. He tells Papillon, "Hey, listen, if you actually plan on escaping this place, you're gonna need a whole lot of cash." Papillon just ignores him, probably thinking he's got enough on his plate. A moment later, all the prisoners are hauled in for their medical checkups. While they are standing there, Juliet leans in again and tells Papillon about this guy named Louis. Apparently, Louis is highly educated and seriously smart, basically the guy you want on your side. See, Louis wasn't your average criminal. He used to be a master at forging fake documents and had made an absolute mountain of cash doing it. That's exactly why he got tossed into prison in the first place. Juliet leans in and gives Papillon the play, saying, "Look, man, you protect him, and your money problems, poof, gone." Papillon is skeptical, though. He's like, "Wait, why would a guy like that even need my help?" Juliet just shakes his head and tells him, "Because this prison is a literal death trap. These guys will gut him for his money before he even knows what hit him. But you can make a fortune just by keeping him alive." They are handed their uniforms and loaded onto a massive ship heading to a super dangerous prison across the ocean. While they are on the water, Papillon tracks down Louis, introduces himself, and lays it all out. He tells him, "Listen, you're gonna need me. There are people all over this ship who want your money and won't think twice about killing you for it. But me? I can keep you safe." Louis actually has a nerve to laugh it off, though he's all confident, replying, "Oh, please, I won't be needing anything like that." But man, that confidence gets shattered real quick. In the dead of night, Louis wakes up and sees a total horror show. A prisoner quietly creeps in and slits another man's throat, just like that, all because a guy had some cash. The killer cold-bloodedly grabs the money, drops a few bills on the floor, and just walks away like nothing happened. Louis is watching this whole thing, absolutely paralyzed with fear. But then, it gets even worse. He sees a guard walk into the cell, and instead of calling for help, the guard just casually picks up the dropped money. That's when it clicks for Louis. The guards are actually in on it. They are working with the killers for a cut of the loot. He realizes right then and there that if he doesn't get Papillon on his side, he's a dead man walking. First thing in the morning, he rushes to Papillon and tells him, "I'm in. I accept your offer." Louis finally breaks and tells Papillon, "Fine, you protect me, and I'll make sure you get paid." But then he gets curious and asks Papillon why he's so desperate for the cash. Papillon doesn't sugarcoat it. He says, "Look, I'm getting out of this hellhole, and escaping costs money. And when I make my move, I'm taking you with me." Louis actually finds this funny and starts laughing, saying, "Oh, man, you don't need to do all that. My wife is already on it. She's hiring a top-tier lawyer, and she'll have me out of here legally in no time." Hearing this, Papillon just lets out a sarcastic laugh and says, "Wow, you are actually so innocent, aren't you? That's never gonna happen. Buddy, think about it. Your wife has all the money right now. Why on earth would she want you to come back and take control of the fortune she's already out there spending?" Louis is offended and snaps back, "No way, my wife isn't like that." Papillon just stays silent, letting the reality of the situation sink in. The scene cuts to the middle of the night. While the whole ship is fast asleep, that same psycho who killed a prisoner the night before creeps up to finish off Louis. But before he can even lay a finger on him, Papillon is already moving. He grabs the guy by his legs and starts absolutely unloading on him. He beats him so hard his face is completely unrecognizable. Of course, all that noise brings the guards running. They start checking everyone's hands for signs of a struggle, and sure enough, they find Papillon's hands covered in blood. As punishment, they chain him up and hang him upside down for several days with zero food. But even while he's hanging there in agony, Papillon isn't even thinking about himself. His only worry is that while he's locked away, someone might have gone back to finish the job on Louis. When he's finally released and sent back to the other prisoners, he's genuinely relieved to see that Louis is still alive and well. Because Papillon had absolutely wrecked that attacker, word traveled fast. Now, every single prisoner is terrified of him. Nobody even dared to look at Louis funny because they knew Papillon was standing right there. Finally, their long journey on the boat is over, and they are hauled off to this nightmare of a prison. The warden stands in front of them and gives this chilling speech. He tells them flat out, "You try to escape? That's 2 years in solitary. You even think about touching a guard? We're tacking on 5 extra years to your sentence." He looks them over and says, "Don't even dream about getting out of here." He explains that even if someone manages to slip past the walls, the jungle outside will swallow them whole. And if they somehow survive the jungle, the sharks in the water are just waiting for a snack. This place is on a whole different level of dangerous, and the guards, they don't have a single merciful bone in their bodies. Back in the work camps, Papillon is finding it harder and harder to keep an eye on Louis. One day, while they're out doing hard labor, Louis accidentally drops his secret stash of money. He's panicking, but Papillon stays cool and carefully tracks it down. This is the exact cash they need for their escape plan. When Papillon hands the money back, Louis looks at him, totally stunned, and says, "Honestly, I wasn't sure you'd actually bring it back. I figured you'd just pocket it for yourself." That moment changes everything for Louis. He starts trusting Papillon's friendship on a much deeper level, and begins opening up about his life. He goes on again about how his wife is going to hire this big-shot lawyer to get him out, and how they have enough money to live like royalty once it's free. Papillon just sighs and tells him one more time, "Listen to me, your wife is not coming to save you." Papillon just looks at him and drops the truth bomb again. "Bro, she's not coming. She's just gonna sit back and live her best life on your dime." Later on, while the guys are out doing back-breaking labor, a cart gets stuck deep in the mud. This cart is actually bringing women over for the guards. Papillon sees a golden opportunity and starts talking to the driver. He tries to cut a deal, promising the guy a massive payday if he helps him break out. At first, the driver is skeptical because, let's be real, Papillon doesn't exactly look like he's made of money. But once he hears the insane amount Papillon is offering, his ears perk up. He tells him, "Look, my cart's going to be parked here for 2 days. You find a way to sneak inside during that time, and I'll get you past the gates. That night, the prison alarm starts screaming. A prisoner has escaped. It wasn't Papillon, though. It was someone else. Instead of being worried, this actually gives Papillon a massive boost of confidence. He figures if that guy can make a run for it, his own escape is gonna be a piece of cake. He eventually falls asleep, dreaming of freedom. But then, a loud alarm goes off, forcing everyone outside in the middle of the night. You can feel the fear in the air. For a second, Papillon thinks he's being caught, but it's actually the guy who tried to escape earlier. He didn't make it. In a total horror show move, the warden cuts the guy's head off right in front of everyone as a warning. Papillon is standing there, completely paralyzed with shock. The man they just executed was Juliet, the same guy who told him he'd need money to get out. Since Papillon is standing there looking like he's seen a ghost, the warden barks an order at him to carry the body out into the forest. He tells him to pick a partner to help. So naturally, Papillon chooses Louis. After dragging the body for miles, Louis is absolutely spent and collapses for a breather. The second he sits down, the guards start whipping him without mercy. They send Papillon into a total blind rage. He grabs a rock, smashes it over a guard's head, and knocks him out cold before bolting into the woods. The other guards are hot on his trail, but is too fast. He hits the edge of a massive cliff and, without even thinking twice, he leaps straight into the river below. After swimming for his life through the freezing water, Papillon finally makes it to the spot where the cart driver's boat is supposed to be waiting. The driver looks at him, stone-faced, and just says, "All right, where's my cash?" Papillon, out of breath and desperate, tries to negotiate. He says, "Look, I don't have it on me right now, but I promise you, if you get me back to France, I'll pay you double what we agreed on." The driver just lets out a cold laugh, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a group of guards swarms Papillon and grabs him. It turns out the driver was a rat. He tells Papillon that the prison actually pays him double just to lure in and trap escaping prisoners. Papillon is dragged back to the warden, who's standing there with a smug look on his face. He tells him, "You're lucky, kid. The guard you smashed with that rock actually survived. If he had died, your head would have been on the chopping block just like your friends. But since you still tried to run, you're going straight to solitary confinement." Now, this solitary cell, it's a literal living hell. It's pitch black, and there's a strict no-talking rule. Being stuck in that silence, Papillon starts to lose his grip on reality. His mental health is circling the drain because he has absolutely no one to talk to. To make matters worse, the only food they give him is this pathetic, watery soup. His body starts to waste away. Then, one day, the heavy door swings open and the very guard Papillon attacked walks in. The guy is still holding a massive grudge, so he decides to get some payback, beating Papillon half to death before just walking out. Papillon is left there broken and so weak he can barely move a finger. When word of this reaches Louis, he is absolutely crushed with guilt and sadness for his friend. One day, a guard mysteriously hands Papillon a coconut. He cracks it open and finds a secret note tucked inside. He knows instantly it's from Louis. For the first time in forever, he actually gets some real nutrition and starts to feel a tiny spark of life coming back to him. From that day on, Louis makes sure a piece of coconut reaches Papillon every single day. As he actually starts getting some decent nutrients, Papillon's strength begins to return, and for the first time in forever, he has a reason to hope. He even starts doing small exercises in that cramped cell just to keep his body from falling apart. His health is improving so fast that the warden actually starts getting suspicious. I mean, the guy is supposed to be wasting away, but is looking stronger. The warden orders an investigation, convinced someone is playing him. One day, a guard is doing the usual food delivery with a coconut hidden at the bottom of the bucket, but another guard intercepts him and does a thorough check. They find the coconut, and the secret is out. The warden is absolutely livid. He punishes the guard severely and then marches straight to Papillon's cell. He demands, "Tell me right now, who is smuggling these coconuts to you?" Now, Papillon could have easily pointed the finger at Louis to save himself, but once again, he chooses to stay silent to protect his friend. This silence drives the warden insane with rage, so he orders Papillon's food rations to be cut in half. After a few days of literal starvation, the warden tries a different tactic. He brings a bowl of delicious, steaming soup to the cell, thinking Papillon will break the second he smells it. He's convinced that a starving man will say anything for a hot meal. But Papillon does something totally unexpected. He looks the warden in the eye and pushes the spoon right back at him. The warden loses it. He orders the food to be cut even further and turns off every single light in the cell. Before, it was just lonely, but now it's absolute, crushing darkness. Papillon's mind starts to fracture. In those pitch-black days, things get so dark that he even tries to take his own life, but he can't even succeed at that. By the time his 2-year sentence in solitary is finally up, he's a shell of a man. When the guards finally drag him out, he can barely even stand on his own 2 feet. They toss him into the prison hospital, and Louis rushes to visit him. Seeing his friend in that state absolutely breaks Louis's heart. He's convinced that Papillon has finally lost his mind. He sits by his bed and confesses everything. "You were right, Papillon. You were right about everything. My wife betrayed me. She divorced me and married that lawyer. Now they're out there blowing through my money while I'm stuck here doing paperwork for the warden." But as he's pouring his heart out, Louis notices something in Papillon's eyes. It hits him. Papillon isn't actually crazy. He's just putting on the performance of a lifetime to keep everyone off his back. Louis leans in, his voice shaking, and asks Papillon why he didn't just save himself by telling the guards the truth. Papillon looks at him and says, "Man, I thought about it. Believe me, I did. But then I realized, you'd never last a day in that dark cell. So I kept my mouth shut." Hearing that level of loyalty, Louis's eyes just fill with tears. He tells him, "You've suffered way too much for me, Papillon. It's my turn to help you now. You want out of this place? Fine. I've put together the perfect escape plan for us. Another prisoner already secured a boat we can use." He explains that on Sunday, the warden and all the guards are going to be busy watching a movie. That's their window. But as soon as he hears this, Papillon starts screaming like a total lunatic and tries to lung at Louis. The doctors rush in, pin him down, and force a sleeping pill down his throat to calm him down. But as soon as the door clicks shut, Papillon spits the pill right out. It was all a show. He faked the entire meltdown so the doctors would keep believing he's lost it, and to make sure Louis didn't accidentally slip up and reveal the truth to anyone. While he's been playing crazy, Papillon has actually been secretly hoarding sleeping pills for the big day. They eventually loop in a young prisoner named Sam, who happens to be pretty tight with one of the guards. Papillon makes him an offer. "We'll take you with us, but you've got to steal the keys from that guard." When Sunday finally rolls around, the tension is through the roof. There's just one hurdle left. The guy with the boat wants his cash up front. Louis handles the payment. No questions asked. Meanwhile, Papillon hands Louis the entire stash of sleeping pills he's been saving and tells him, "Slip these into the guards' drinks. Once they're out cold, walking out of here is going to be a breeze." Night falls, and it's showtime. Louis carefully mixes the pills into the drinks and serves them up. As the movie starts and the room goes dark, Sam uses the shadows to distract the guard and goes for the keys. Papillon doesn't waste a second. He knocks the guard out cold and grabs the keys. The other guards hear the thud and try to scramble to their feet to see what's going on, but the sleeping pills hit them like a freight train. They are out before they can even make a move. The guys take their chance and start sneaking out, but of course, nothing ever goes exactly to plan. A massive storm rolls in, the rain is pouring down in sheets, and suddenly, the power goes out. In the pitch black, they are struggling to scale this massive prison wall. Just as it's Louis's turn to make the leap, the lights flicker back on. He panics, loses his footing, and lands hard, snapping his leg. He's in a lot of pain and can barely move. The guy who arranged the boat looks at Papillon and says, "We got to leave him, man. With a broken leg, he's just dead weight." But Papillon? No way. He refuses to leave his brother behind. He hoists Louis onto his back and keeps moving. Just before they hit the boat, someone grabs him from the shadows. For a heart-stopping second, they think it's over, but it's actually a guard who was paid off to help them slip away. He points them to the boat, and they start rowing for their lives. But the drama isn't over yet. The boat is way too small for 4 people, and it's starting to take on water. The guy who found the boat gets cold-blooded and demands they throw Louis overboard to lighten the load. To save his friend, Papillon lunges at the guy, but the man is way stronger and pins Papillon down, ready to finish him. Just in the nick of time, Louis finds a knife and stabs a guy over and over until he stops moving. It's a brutal moment. Louis is absolutely terrified. I mean, he's never even hurt a fly, let alone killed someone. Papillon and Sam grab him, trying to calm him down, telling him, "Look at me, you didn't do anything wrong. It was him or us." They heave the body into the ocean, and the boat finally stays afloat. But as soon as they catch their breath, a massive storm hits. The waves are huge, tossing them around like a toy until they all pass out. When they finally wake up, they've washed up on a beautiful island. The people there are incredibly kind. A nun approaches Papillon, looks him in the eye, and says, "We know exactly where you came from, but I believe God forgives every sin." Papillon immediately catches the subtext of her words. He turns to his friends, panicking, and whispers, "Guys, we got to move right now. They know exactly who we are, and it's only a matter of time before they call the cops." But it's already too late. While they are still trying to figure out their next move, the police swarm the place. Turns out, the nun had already ratted them out. They are cornered, and in the chaos, their young friend Sam tries to make a run for it. But he doesn't make it. He's shot and killed right then and there. Louis looks at Papillon, totally heartbroken, and says, "Man, when you saw those cops, you should have just bolted and left me behind." Papillon doesn't say a word, but in that moment, Louis's respect for him reaches a whole new level. For his second escape attempt, the system doesn't hold back. Papillon is slapped with 5 long years in solitary confinement. He's thrown back into that same soul-crushing darkness. Fast forward 5 years, and when Papillon finally emerges, he's a shadow of his former self. He looks like a weak, frail old man. Even the warden is stunned to see him still breathing. He actually praises him, saying, "I've got to hand it to you. I've rarely seen anyone with your kind of strength. You survived, but honestly, what hope is left? You're never getting out of here." Papillon stays silent, and the warden decides to send him to the absolute worst place on Earth, Devil's Island. This place is a nightmare, massive, jagged cliffs surrounded by a violent ocean. It's so dangerous that a prison doesn't even bother with guard because, let's be real, where are you gonna go? They just drop off a little bit of food every week that barely lasts a couple of days. When Papillon first steps onto the island, he sees the other prisoners have completely lost their minds. For the first time, he feels like just giving up until he sees a familiar face. He's absolutely shocked to find Louis there. Since Louis was useful to the warden with all that paperwork, he skipped the solitary confinement and was sent straight to the island. They are both incredibly happy to be reunited, but then Louis drops a bombshell. He's done. He tells Papillon he doesn't want to try escaping anymore. Louis is completely over it. He feels like there's just no point in trying anymore. But a few days later, while they are walking along those massive, jagged cliffs, Papillon picks up a coconut and tosses it into the crashing waves below. He stands there, mesmerized, watching it bob and float on the water. Right then, a light bulb goes off. He's got one final, crazy idea for an escape. He starts gathering every dry coconut he can find, tying them together to build 2 makeshift rafts, and decides he's going to take the ultimate leap of faith off that cliff. He begs Louis to come with him, but this time, Louis just shakes his head. He tells him, "Look, man, I just don't have that fire in me anymore. I've got nothing left in this world. Even if we make it out, I probably won't survive the real world anyway. Just let me stay here and find some peace." Seeing how drained his friend is, Papillon doesn't push him. Instead, he tosses his raft over the edge and takes a massive leap off that towering cliff. Honestly, Louis is watching this thinking he's witnessing his friend's suicide. The cliff is so high he's convinced Papillon will just hit the water and never come up. He didn't say anything because he didn't want to kill Papillon's last bit of hope. He looks down, his heart heavy, thinking his best friend is gone forever. But then he hears it. A voice. Papillon breaks the surface of the water, safe and sound. He's waving his arms and screaming with pure, unadulterated joy because he's finally free. Louis stands on the edge of that cliff, smiling and cheering for the man who never gave up. The story fast-forwards many years later. We see an older Papillon, technically still a fugitive, but is living a good life, a free life. He decides to take his legendary story to an American publisher, and once his book hits the shelves, everything changes. The truth finally comes out, and the court officially clears his name, dropping every single charge against him. After decades of hell, he finally gets a return to his home country as a free man. The movie ends on this massive victory, showing that no matter how dark things get, courage and hope can win in the end.